Hello and welcome to Gnostic Tarot Card Special Module Part 2, the presentation of Etteilla's Divinatory Method as revealed to his student Papus, Gerard, and Cass. Now today's module is going to be about Etteilla's Divinatory Method, and most importantly we're going to learn about some subtle nuances that Etteilla used in his divinatory teachings, as illustrated in the Divinatory Tarot by Papus, that shows a little bit of how this mystic of the late 17th century was looking at the cards, how he felt like they moved and they had an energy and a life of their own. So some of the modern intuitions about how the cards have a personality or a life of their own are not too far off, and hopefully we're going to see a little bit in this presentation about how Etteilla used some of these conceptual ideas and then turned it into a divinatory chart that Papus calls Etteilla's master divinatory chart. So as always, our work is extremely in alignment with Christine Payne-Towler, Tarot University and Arc Letters. She's actually my tarot teacher, and you can go to her website where she's been doing the work on not only researching Etteilla, but the entire continental system of tarot, which spans from the 14th century to the late 17th, early 18th century. So you can go to tarotuniversity.com and see a little bit more about what she has done scholastically and academically to share some of the gaps that may not be presented in this particular presentation. So here we go. We have Etteilla's Divinatory Method. These are going to be part 2 of the special module section of Gnostic Tarot Cards. And in this module, we're going to present stages 2, 3, and 4. Albeit the stages 2 and 4 are actually quite quirky. They don't really seem like they have something to do with divination. But taken as a holistic entity, this divinatory method scopes a little bit more about what's going on, and hopefully through some of the inferences and similarities with other schools of thought, this module will show that the Etteilla Divinatory Method can be used in a philosophical and magical way. So it's not particularly saying that Etteilla did this or Etteilla did that, but more, here is Etteilla's Divinatory Method, and here is the continental tradition and the sources of Gnosis that you can use to work hand in hand with this. So the amplification is not Etteilla. It is not historically accurate. But looking at the chart, looking at the methodologies, we can see a lot of similarities to modern occult practices. So part of this module is going to be one, to present Etteilla's chart, to show a little bit of his methodologies, in fact in whole as they're presented in the Divinatory Tarot by Papus. So we're going to go ahead and start that. But it's important to realize that just because something seems arbitrary or scattered and it doesn't fit into something, when we look at it in a syncretic way, meaning when we bring in other information that could have possibly been about those times and those cultural influences of the Magi and the adepts around the 17th century, we're going to see that there is in fact some difference of opinion on what exactly is being seen, said, and done. Okay, so now we have stage 2 of Etteilla's Divinatory Method as revealed in Papus's book Divinatory Tarot. So shuffle all the 78 cards. Now, you're going to want to either shuffle them yourself or have the querent shuffle them, but you also want to cut them, and then you're going to take the first 17 cards from the cards and arrange them 17 through 1 from right to left. Now, it's Etteilla wants us to take a look at the 18th card, the one that's in your hand after the 17th is laid down, and the 78th card, which will be at the bottom of the deck. Now, since Etteilla looks at everything in his tarot and in his chart in twos or pairs, you'll want to look at these two cards, because this is what he's saying is going to be a good flow of friendly communication that has been established between you and the querent. So already we see that Etteilla is aware of a subtlety in the tarot, that he's doing what I'm calling the checking the energy phase. You're looking at the time, which he highly practiced astrology, so you're looking at the time of the year, you're looking at the moon cycle, you're trying to feel out what kind of subtle energies are taking place in this reading of the tarot. So when you do this divinatory method, it may seem like, yeah, 17 through 1, that doesn't mean anything. But in those times, and now we're looking in our times, we can see that there are subtleties with advanced dynamics and properties to them. So just kind of check the energy with the 18th card and the 78th and see if this is a good time, or if this pulls any kind of intuitive response to you. And then if it is a good time, you can now read the oracles formed by the above line, the 17 through 1. So as always, in Etteilla's divinatory method, in Gnostic Tarot cards presentation of it, you're going to want to read the 17 through 1 line in pairs. Now, you can see this chart. We have the sun and the moon here. We have a really, really poignant duality in Etteilla's methodology. And I think that is important to look at. The dualistic presentation of the divinatory method, I don't think is by mistake. In fact, I'd like to bring your attention to way now in the future from this point when the Etteilla's divinatory method was being used, to the times of Carl Jung and what he was talking about in the individuation process. In the individuation process, it's a uniting of not so comfortable aspects of the psyche with the more comfortable ones. And in this pair, you're going to see on Etteilla's original cards, he had them written on the reverse side as well. And I think that is very important to look at, because in philosophy and psychology, we're starting to see where this is promoting a holistic view of seeing life and its circumstances. So I don't think it's by mistake that we're having this dualist kind of mentality when we go to the tarot. We're looking at things that are challenging. We're looking at things that we may need advice on. We may need a different perspective. And we're looking at this random universe as chaos. But now, as we use the tarot, we're starting to see that's not chaotic. That inherent in it is a system or a core of order. So this seemingly chaotic phase and this altogether phase, they need to be brought together. And so that's what I think this reading in pairs and the insistence upon the two and all of Etteilla's divinatory readings. He wants to show the reverse side of the psyche, or the not so pleasant. He wants to integrate the personality so it's able to start accepting these higher truths. Okay, so even to add more kooky stuff, Etteilla has what I like to call the mysterious movement phase. Now, in a tarot exacting reading, you're looking at this. Now, we've already shown that he's looked at the top and the bottom cards of the remaining pack. He looked at the 18th card and the 78th card and made an assessment whether or not this was a good time. Then we're reading the 17 cards in a pair-like fashion. Next, what we're doing is we're reading if the cards themselves are wanting to move. So what happens is, in order to read the results of the 17 through 1, you take the card in twos, the first together with the last, and you start to move them to one side. So you start with the right as usual, and when you've read the line, you put the 17th card on one side to the right of you and the first card to the left of you. So you're switching their polarities. You see, you're taking the first and you're moving it all the way over to the left at the end where the 17th was. And now you're moving the 17th all the way back over to the first position. And it seems like, why would somebody do that? But it's actually called a permutation in Kabbalistic philosophy. And it's a way of crossing the channels. In psychology, with the dialectical behavior therapy, they talk about crossing over the equilibrium so both sides of the brain get active and they become actuated. They do this a lot with those with PTSD or schizophrenia. They cross the channels. They tell you to put your right hand on the left side of your body and your left hand on the right side of your body. Now, why would that be? Why would Etteilla, before psychotherapy was even thought of, have this weird, mysterious movement where one gets moved to the other side and the other gets moved to the one side? It's because this crosses over physiologically in our brains, the channels of the right and left brain. That's what I'm speculating on. This is not historical. I've been yelled at for not being historically accurate. So this is not historical, but I want to bring attention to it because it's showing the conjunction between the seeming opposites. It's showing that, no, the 17 is not in a fixed position. It's dynamic and it can move. It's showing the possibility and the potentiality of us being able to be in a choice-based modality when it comes to our destiny. So I think that's something that we want to look at. Now, Papus says that there's seemingly no reason why this should have had to been done. Etteilla does quirky things all the time. But that's why I called this the mysterious movement phase. Because when you permute them, which is a line right out of the Sefer Yetzirah. When you permute them, when you engrave them, when you use them, the tarot starts to take on a kind of energetic body, I would say. That and this has been highlighted by Marcus Kotz of the Tarot Sophie work, and his opening of the key of the later 1800 and the Golden Dawn methodology. But in this, the Continental methodology, we're seeing that this actually existed as well. The cards move around. They have an energetic response that's sympathetic with the actual reading and the querent in hand. So this is just something to look at the end of the stage 2. Why are we moving everything around? And that's because the system was meant to work with all 4 stages. Okay, so next we have stage 3 of Etteilla's Master Divination Chart. This is pretty much the core of why we wanted to work on the Etteilla divination method. This chart is extremely poignant. It seems like something arbitrary, but I want to bring your attention to the fact that when you're looking at a chart like this in any philosophical or mystical, magical, noetic system, this is not arbitrary. That somebody did not just say, I wonder what happens if I take 11 cards and I divide them into 7 groups and then I have a card left over. They don't do that. This is taught through a specific technique of numerology, of philosophy, that really predates the late 1700s, but we're not going to go into the history of that. I just want you to look at the fact that, why is this diagram showing a triangle? The cards aren't arranged in a triangle, so why would it be a triangle on top of a circle? That seems like it's like kind of weird. Like, who would do a triangle and then have a circle that doesn't have all the cards when it comes to tarot. So we're starting to see a geometrical kind of overlay on the numbers. And that is extremely important to look at, by the way. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this chart. Now, this stage is really easy to set up. I've looked at it a few times, and we're going to see a really easy way to do this. But you're going to need to pay attention, because if we don't do this right the first time, it's not going to come out. So if you've gone to stage 1, into stage 2, you've gone through the mysterious movement phase and the checking of the energy, you're now at stage 3, where you're going to create the actual divinatory chart. So now we're seeing that there was a little bit of a male-female kind of work that Etteilla was doing. In fact, he said, when the magician comes up and you're placing these cards on the chart, you're going to want to place that in the middle where the querent is, if it's a male that you're doing the reading for. And if it's a female, when the Justice card comes up, which can be numbered any number in the deck, but it was specifically not the number he was making reference to. It was the archetypal energy of the querent, that he felt the magician was the male and the Justice or Themis was the female. Now, this is something that we're not going to argue with. We're just going to see, if it's a male, we'll put the magician there. If it's a female, we'll put Justice there. And that goes smack dab in the middle of your arrangement. Okay, so next we have the breaking down of the chart, where the cards of the tarot go. So you see on the right hand side, the cards are numbered 1 through 11. And then on the left hand side, there's supposed to be 12 through 22, but the 21st card is gone. And then on the top column, you'll see 23 through 33. Now these are in 11, so the numbers here are really easy to keep in mind. If you remember, each one of these groups is 11 cards, because that's the only way they can read in pairs. So somehow this chart came up a little weird. I don't know if someone did it wrong, but they're supposed to be in 11 cards, because that's the only way that these can be mathematically devised into pairs. And also, when you're done making these lines, so first you have the 1 through 11 on the right. Next, you'll have the 12 through the 22 on the left. And above, in the middle column, you'll have 23 to 33 going from right to left. So we're still keeping the modality of a Kabbalist. Now, Etteilla didn't say this. Only thing that comes from Etteilla is the methodology. But you can see that we're still looking at things like a little backwards. Like in English, we do things, and pretty much any language, we do it from left to right. But in Hebrew, we do things from right to left. And this was done in Paris. So it's like, how come these little quirky things are here? Plus, you're going to see a triangle. And then you're also going to see time modalities. Now, this is really important, because as we go to the past, present, and future, we're seeing a division which is very, very subtle, but it's called a liturgical or a ritualistic modality, meaning we're freezing a place of time and space, and we're going into a place where we're actually doing work that is specifically placing out a kind of energetic field. It's kind of difficult to talk about, but we're using divinatory methods, so you're just going to have to stick in there with it if you've gone this far. We're looking at how the past, present, and future is right now because we're frozen in time. This is the beingness of the circle, of the one. The one doesn't divide into past. The one doesn't divide into present. The one doesn't divide into future. In fact, in the biblical term of I am, it's I am all that was, I am all that is, and I am all that will be. It's a being statement saying that behind becoming, behind doing, there is a being. There is a existential place where we exist, and that cannot be destroyed. That's the I am. So as we go from the Trinitarian view to the holistic unity view, we're seeing that these time frames all exist in one. So as you're laying your cards out, due to this method, you'll want to look at these 11 groups of cards. There's actually there's 7 groups of 11, and then you have your either Magician or Justice card in the middle. But next, we're going to want to see how to read these cards, because you don't just read them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a different way to do it. So we're going to go into that next. Okay, so real quickly, this chart is the Divinatory chart that we just created. We have on the right 1 through 11, on the left 12 through 22, and up top we have the 23 to 33. And as you can see, the cards then break into the 44 through, or 34 through 44, going from the past. And then we have the 45 to the 55 of the present, and we have the 56 to the 66 of the future. So it goes past, present, future. And then the 11 cards that are remaining, after you place the Magician or Justice in the middle, go up to the upper, pretty much left-hand side. Now, why would that happen too? It's really important to look at, why am I doing this? Why are we looking at this weird chart? Why? And this is in fact weird. Nobody does this unless they're trying to do something specific. Nobody freezes a place in time and space and creates a liturgical or ritualistic modality in order to just sit there and be weird. This has the actual purpose. This is called an operation. At any rate, so the way that Papus says you read this chart is, you see the 1 here, that is going to match up with the past and the 34th card. Okay? And then you have the 11 at the end, you're going to want to match up with the 44th card. Then you're going to want to go from the 2nd to the 35th card, and the 10th to the 43rd card. So you're crisscrossing again into a dualistic modality. So now you're seeing that as you read them in pairs, as they say things on both front and back, as we've put them into these crisscrossed channels, there's definitely an effect that's happening that's integrating both sides of the queer's personality. Now, in other modules, we're going to go more into this, but this is what I'd like to call Etteilla's way of showing the syzygy. The Gnostic syzygy was the collective unification of divinatory forces. In fact, in Kabbalah, they call it the Elohim. And in the Bible, they talk about, in the Kabbalistic way of viewing it, they talk about this thing called God, or this entity called God, was not God as in the singular, it was gods as in the plural. And we're not going into a polytheistic thing, we're going into, it says the Elohim created. The Elohim said. It's Elohim, it's not Adonai, it's not the Lord, it's not the one God. which in Gnostic philosophy we call abraxas or abraxax, which is really just a way to say 365 days or 360 degrees of the zodiac, and we place it all into one thing. Now, of course, we didn't go into this wanting to talk about Gnostic philosophy, so I'll curb it there. But I would challenge you, if this is something that is interesting, because in the future we're going to talk about it in more Etteilla-specific modules, look up things like the Elohim, which is a dualistic concept. Look up things like the Shem angels, which are like dual-like. Look up things like the Syzygies in Gnosticism. Look up these dualistic male and female, or king and queen in Alchemy, and start to see how they're all saying the same thing. Okay, so next we have Etteilla's final stage of divination. Now this seems ridiculous, because at the end of this master divination chart, you read the cards 7 through 1. Now why is that? Why would we look at the 7 through 1? Now 7 is an extremely pertinent number. And I'm not going to go into everything, but I will highlight a few things. 7 planets in the solar system, including the sun and moon. 7 metals. 7 chakras. 7 days of creation, which we will talk about in a further Etteilla module on his 7 days of creation plus chaos, which is the tohu and bohu of the Kabbalists. Then we have the 7 double letters of Kabbalistic alphabets. We have the 7 vowels in Greek language. And we have the 7 planes in Theosophy. All through these systems, there is a 7. That's all I'll say. So if you want to read your 7 cards, however the number 7 makes sense to you, see these last and final cards laid out from right to left, 7 through 1, because that's how Etteilla did all of his card groupings. They were right to left, just like we do in Hebrew language and just like they do in Kabbalah. Place it from right to left, and you look at these 7 cards. What do these represent to you? What 7 micro or macrocosmic number is it that reaches out to you? It could be the 7 glands of your physiological body. You can see, wow, this card number 7 here correlates to this gland in me. But find a way that this number 7 makes a significant impact upon your psychic condition. And you'll see that this Etteilla's divinatory method and modalities that are being pulled up are a holistic pattern of divination. You've looked at the 3, you've looked at the 7, you've looked at the 11 plus 1, which is 12. This is not by mistake. We're not trying to do something here that has never been done before. Etteilla was specifically practicing something, but we can't historically prove anything. But look at stage 1. Look at how we busted up the deck into 3 rows. That's a 3. The 3 is specific in Kabbalistic, alchemical, numerical, geometrical kind of symbolism. There's 3 divisions in pretty much any philosophical tradition or spiritual or magical tradition you go to. And then we had the 1 magician or justice, and 11 cards represented that justice's future. 11 cards represented that justice's or magician's past. And 11 cards represented the magician or justice's present. It's important to see this because that is a 12-place division. Even though we're reading them in pairs, each time we take the 1 and we divide it into the 3, the 12, and the 7, we're seeing, I'm going to take a stretch here, we're seeing a Kabbalistic methodology. The 3, the 12, and the 7 are the mother letters of Hebrew philosophy. The 7 are the double, and the 12 are the elemental. I didn't make this up. This isn't something that you have to rely on me for, but look throughout this chart and see, does the 3 in stage 1 mean something to you? The 3 groupings of the heart, the mind, and the body, or the psyche, the soul, and the pneumatic, the spirit, or the sarx and the body? Or does this not mean something? And if it does, then you might be looking at more in your philosophical positioning than meets the eye. This might be something that might need a little more investigation. But historically, we're not going to go anywhere. We're just going to point out a little bit of the similarities that Etteilla didn't say, that Papus knew, and that a lot of the Continentalists knew, a lot of the Magi of the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries knew, but we're not explicitly stating this is true. Just look at it. See if the 3 divisions, the 7 divisions, and the 12 divisions make sense. And if they do, welcome to your Kabbalistic view of philosophy, because that is a pertinent thing in our tradition, which is the Continental. Okay, well that's the end of our Etteilla Divinatory Method, stages 1 through 4. I'd like to thank you for watching part 2 of this special module section on Etteilla's Divinatory Method. This is Gnostic Tarot Cards. My name is Timothy Reeder-Wright. I was the creator of this site. We have GnosticTarotCards.com, which is a work in construction of sharing all the blogs that we have, and they're grouped into the individual cards themselves. We're through pretty much through the first 2 septenaries. We just have the Chariot through Fool next. And then we also have YouTube videos. We have instructional kind of these videos that are meant to show a little bit more dimensions about the continental alphabetical astrological numerical system. So go to YouTube and see what the work that Christine Payne-Towler has done in presenting Gnostic tarot cards to the public. As always, if you want to chat, we're on groups over about tarot on Facebook. You can go to Gnostic Tarot Cards and like us on Facebook, Twitter, network blogs, and of course Blogger. So if you're interested in the continental system, or you're interested in these Gnostic knowing elements about the tarot, I challenge you, come and check us out. Come see what we got to show. And if this helps your practice anymore, I'm grateful for that. Once again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.